So the basic objective of the today's lecture is the attackers and their tools. So here we'll try to discuss who is the attacking our network and why, what are their intention, and what kind of tools that they will use to attack our network or the end devices that we'll try to discuss. So who is attacking our network and what are these means? The first few terminologies we need to understand. One is the threat, vulnerability, and the risk. So as defined that if any of the attacker will try to attack the network or any end devices, so we are under the attack and the attackers wants to access our assets, and assets are anything like maybe your data, the personal information, or your the bank credit information, or any intellectual properties, or like your servers or computers, smartphones, anything that belongs to any individual or any organization, that is nothing but an asset. And the attackers, they try to attack those things. So other terminologies which involve in this is some of the terminologies for the attackers to identify attackers and their tools. One is threat. Threat means it is a dangerous thing to our attack. Okay. And vulnerability, as we so aware of this one, vulnerability is the weakness of any system or any network. Okay. So based on this vulnerabilities, attackers try to get into any individual's asset to gain the access of those assets and use those assets as per their requirement. And attack surface means it is a group of your vulnerabilities or some of your vulnerabilities. In that, any one vulnerability can be utilized by the attackers to get into your system or the network. And as soon as they know the vulnerability of your network or your end devices, then they try to exploit it. So this exploit means it is a mechanism that used to leverage the vulnerability to compromise the asset. And by exploiting this exploitation can be done either remotely or locally. That means what? Remotely means a network attacker who is sitting outside your network trying to gain access of your end device or servers or any the workstations. I try to get the important information from those devices. But local exploitation means within the group somebody may behave as a malicious the actor or the attacker and trying to gain access of the local information, or if they have the local administrative access to any end devices, they try to get all the information which is available on those end devices. And another terminology is the risk. So risk is, it is likelihood that a particular threat will exploit a particular vulnerability, and if that is not the potentially identify it and define it, then obviously your asset will be in the risk. So in this risk terminology, there are other risk asset processes are also there. That is the risk management is the process that balances the operational cost of providing the protective measures with the gain achieved by the protecting the asset. So there are some common ways of this management or risks are there. We'll try to see those common the risk managements. One is the terminology which you use, the risk acceptance. So this risk acceptance is the cost of your risk management option, which outweighs the cost of the risk itself. So the risk will be accepted and there will be no action taken against it. And another one is avoidance, risk avoidance. That means avoiding the exposure to the risk by eliminating the activities, so that those activities should kept secure. so that you can avoid some of the risk of your assets or intellectual properties or any devices in the network. Another one is the risk reduction. That means if some of the activities goes under the risk exposure, then try to reduce that particular risk by providing some defensive strategies to that, and reduce the risk of that particular asset. And another one is your risk transfer. If any organization or individual, if unable to identify the risk about their asset, so then they undergo with the risk reduction. They don't know how to reduce that risk. Then they may, give this risk activities for the third party, just like you are the insurance company type. So who can they keep? Who can balance this the risk operations or risk management system of any individual or organization's asset? So from there, the common network security terms, which are other than these, your threat, vulnerability, risk, and your risk management terminologies like risk acceptance, avoidance, reduction, and your the risk transfer. Some other terminologies use the countermeasure and the impact one. So this countermeasure is the action taken to protect assets by mitigating the threat or reducing the risk is counterpart, the countermeasure. Whereas impact means the potential damage to the organization that is caused by the threat or caused by any attackers. So these are the common network security terminologies which are used. So in this entire process, the risk, for the threat and vulnerability and your risk process, these all are happen just because of some of the we call the attackers, then we call the hackers. So who are these hackers? So this is generally a common term. Hackers is a common term used to describe a threat actor actually. So these hackers, they are the clever programmer. Either they can write a new program to get into the network or any individual device, or they try to change the existing code of your existing programming code so that they can gain access to other individuals' assets by using their vulnerabilities. So that is one. And these hackers are the network professionals that uses the sophisticated programming skills to ensure that the networks are not vulnerable to attack, but a person who tries to gain unauthorized access to device on the internet, they are also treated as the hacker. We call them as the hackers. So any individual who run the program to prevent or corrupt data on server, they also treated as your hackers or your threat actors. So in this hacker or threat actor, we can interchange these names during our discussion. There are three types of your hackers or your threat actors are there. One is your white hat hackers, gray hat hackers, and your black hat hackers. So what these white hat hackers do? The white hat hackers are the ethical hackers who use their programming skills for good, ethical, and legal purposes only. So they may perform network penetration tests in an attempt to compromise networks and systems by using their knowledge of your computer security systems to discover the network vulnerabilities. And security vulnerabilities are reported to the developers of any organization or any the enterprises, and security personnel who attempt to fix the vulnerability before it can be exploited. And some organizations award the prizes or the bounties to these white hat hackers because they are all the privileges given to these white hat hackers. So, for example, in our university, if the university hires me as a white hat hacker, then all the privileges given to me so that I can try to access every individual device in the network, and I'll try to attack the network. I'll try to attack the individual servers or workstations, and if I able to succeed that, then I'll try to prepare a report that on this particular server, these services are vulnerable services. On this network, this router is having this vulnerability. And by giving that report to the organization try to reconfigure those services so that that will not be available to any of the other attackers. So such, and by doing this activity, I may get some kind of the award prize from the university itself, right? So they are strictly professional, and they report to their organization. Whatever vulnerabilities they try to identify, they report to their organization. We call them as your white hat hackers. Another one is your grey hat hackers. So these grey hat hackers are any individuals or who commit crime and do the arguable unethical things, but not for personal gain or to cause any damage. So they just try to do that. This organization is having these vulnerabilities, but they don't use that, or they don't harm any organization by gaining that access. So an example would be that someone who compromise a network without permission and then disclose the vulnerability publicly, that this network is having these vulnerabilities. Means somebody may say that the UTSA Wi-Fi password is not so strong. You can use this password to use the UTSA Wi-Fi. So they are not damaging. They are arguing that your network is having the vulnerability. So I just exposed this. So such kind of the hackers we call the grey hat hackers, and the next one is your black hat hackers. So these hackers are unethical criminals basically, who violate the computer and network security for personal gain or for a malicious reason, such as you are attacking networks. The black hat hackers exploit vulnerabilities to compromise computers and network systems. So the good or bad hacking is an important aspect of your network security. So the term threat actor is used when referring to these individuals or group that could classified as gray or white or the black hat hackers. So in this threat evaluation of your threat actors, so different threat actors plays an important role. One is your script kiddle, say. So in this script kiddles, it refers to teenagers or inexperienced threat actors that running the existing script, tools and exploit to cause harm, or but typically not for profit. That means this script kiddies, if they heard that this, by using this tool you can gain access of this internet access, by using this tool you can watch movies free of cost, by using these tools you can access some of the data, the library access or something. So by hearing those terms in the society, and they try to use that word, but they don't know what is the impact of that particular tool. But they are illegally or unethically they are accessing those assets. So we call that kind of the threat actors as your script kiddies. And another one is the vulnerability brokers. So it refers to the grey hat hackers basically. Vulnerability brokers means who attempt to discover exploits and report them to their vendors. So that means whatever task that they perform for any organization, they try to get some money or the award prize type. And the hacktivist is another type of your threat actor. So it refers to again the grey hat hackers The role of grey hat hacker is who rally and protest against different the political and the social ideas. Okay, so they don't gain, but they try to exploit. It means they try to work for some group, some organization, or some the individuals. So we call them as your hacktivist. That is another type of your threat actor, and most important one is your cyber criminals. So these script kiddies, vulnerable brokers, or activists, they are your grey hat hackers. So that is, somebody unknowingly do, and this vulnerability and activists, they work for a group or a organization. Whereas these cyber criminals, they are the individuals. They comes under the black hat hackers category. So who are the either self-employed or working for any large cybercrime organizations. Large cybercrime organizations. Okay. And the state-sponsored the threat actors. So these state-sponsored threat actors are the threat actors who steal government secrets and gather intelligence and the sabotage networks of foreign governments, territory groups, and corporations. So these are your state-sponsored one, means they are sponsored by the government agencies to work for the government benefit to getting access of other groups. So these are few what you call the threat actors, but among them the most dangerous actor is your cyber criminals. So these cyber criminals are these threat actors are who are motivated to make money using any means of their necessary. So while sometimes these cyber criminals work independently, so they are more often financed and sponsored by some criminal organizations. So these cyber criminals operate in an underground economy where they buy, sell, and trade some exploits and tools. So they also buy and sell the personal information and intellectual property that they steal from victims. So cyber criminals target small business and consumers as well as a large enterprise and the industries. So what are the basic cyber security tasks to take some countermeasures against these cyber criminals? That means one is the trustworthiness, the trustworthy IT vendor. So these are few cyber security checklist any individual who needs to check care to take the countermeasure of your vulnerability assets. One is your trustworthy IT vendors, then security software up to date. As we said, any operating systems or any mobile phones, whatever the end devices and network devices that you are using, every 15 days or every month those vendors trying to update, I mean they release some patches. So those patches must be updated or installed so that will protect your end device or server from the attackers. And some regular penetration testing is required. By using the penetration testing tools, try to test your network or your end devices whether still they are up to date or any vulnerabilities are there or not. And the backup to it is good to back up the data, the personal data or your professional data or any organizational data to your cloud or any hard disk. That means if your system is compromised by the attacker, suppose, then you can erase all the data, or you can disconnect your device from the network and go back with your backup data so that you will have the what you call the up-to-date data, which is not malpracticed, which is not altered by your attacker. And another one is periodically change the Wi-Fi passwords in a small home or in a small office or home office, and security policy updates and enforce use of your strong passwords and make sure that two-factor authentication should be there. So these are some cybersecurity task checklists. So that by following this one, try to protect your asset from the attackers or threat actors. So here one of the example for that is the cyber threat indicators. So many network attacks can be prevented by sharing information about these cyber threat indicators. We call the IOC, indicators of compromise. So each attack has unique identifiable attributes. So indicators of compromises are an evidence that an attack has occurred. So this IOC can be featured. The identify malware files, IP addresses of your servers that are used in attacks, their file names, and the characteristics changes made to the end system software, among others. So this IOC helps cybersecurity personnel identify what has happened in an attack and develop a defense against the attack. So the summary of this IOC for a piece of malware, that you can see in this case that the malware file is your studio link or standalone version. So this exe file is there, and that is what you call the hashed with the hash function sh256 and md5 functions. So then it is good to check the cyber threat indicator or the indicator of this compromise. Check whether this particular the mail or message came from the legitimate user or not. So how to check? Go through this DNS request from where this is coming. So if these domains, if you are aware of these domains, or if you ever tried to these domains, then you can trust that this mail came from a legitimate DNS server. And you can also check the connections, IP addresses also. If you know this domain, you can easily find out which IP address associated with that domain. That means sometimes your domain names looks like a legitimate domain name, but actually they are associated with the different IP addresses. So for example, if I write that cisco.com, and its IP address is, for example, 198.51.100.200, right? If I have the domain name, which I know that cisco.com, this cisco.com, but the IP address is suppose 200.15.17.200. See, both are looks like same. Both the domain names are looks like same, but their IP addresses are different here. And there is only one letter, that is the I, which looks something different than others. So in an overlook, generally the users, they don't see that every character in that. So by just checking that, okay, both are cisco.com, so the file came from the cisco.com, so easily you can open, but in that you will have the malware. So if you experience with this one, then you must put this record in the summary of your IOC for a piece of malware, so that and you can share this information with other agencies, so that if this kind of malware goes to any of other organization, they try to identify it, put as a rule at the in the intrusion prevention system and intrusion detection system. So as soon as this kind of malware comes at the edge router, they can simply drop there itself, and these kind of malwares will not allowed into the network. And then this, as we said, this threat sharing and building the cybersecurity awareness among the other users. So this threat sharing and building cybersecurity awareness. So the governments are now actively promoting the cybersecurity. So, for instance, the U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency, that CISA, is leading efforts to automate the sharing of cybersecurity information with public and private organizations at no cost. So this CISA uses a system called Automated Indicator Sharing (AIS), which is used. So this AIS enables the sharing of attack indicators between the US government and the private sectors as soon as threats are verified, like malware or the virus or any ransomwares and those things. So this CISA offers many resources that help to limit the size of your United States attack surface. So there are some what you call the theme of your the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month is generally organized by the US government in every October month. So their basic intention is this campaign encouraged all citizens to be safer and more personally accountable for using the security best practice online, like social media safety, the updating privacy settings, awareness of your device app securities, keeping software up to date, safe online shopping, Wi-Fi password, and two-factor authentication, strong password. So these are some of the activities which are taken by this the National Cybersecurity Alliance of your United Nations to make awareness of this thing to the citizens here, right? And so these are some basic terminologies and some threats that are happens in the network. So by getting this, how these threats happened and how these cyber criminals exploit a vulnerability, and how this threat actor must have a techniques or tools over the years, that attack tools have become the more sophisticated and highly automated tools are there. So let us see these tools, and where these tools use and for what purpose these tools use. That we'll try to look into this. Yeah.
So as say, for instance, a cybersecurity analyst, would they monitor these the public information?
Yes.
Would they monitor it regularly, or would it be used kind of like as a library just to?
No, they monitor regularly.
Monitor regularly?
They monitor regularly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's like so whenever new threats comes out on news, and then they look at all the new threats that come out regularly.
Yes. Yeah. And in every October, the government try to do the campaigning for this one also. Means in recent months, what are the different threat acts, or the threats or attacks are identified, and those attacks will be shared with all the private sectors, like our university also one of the part of that. We already collaborated with our state government here. So then that awareness will be given to everyone. So based on that, the network administrator of every organization, they try to configure their edge routers and try to put the security appliances, like web security appliances, or your the intrusion detection system appliances, intrusion prevention system. So any new attack is there, that will be updated, so that further, if that kind of attack comes, then that will not be entered into your network and will not harm any of the servers. Yeah. So this US government take this as serious as much, and developed a very good infrastructure at CIAS. Okay, and then let us see the threat actors, how they use. Yeah, this is what we have just seen, the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So these threat actor tools, how these tools are used. So what is the intention of these tools? As we are saying, to exploit vulnerability a threat actor must have a technique or tool. So this threat actor, as we discussed, threat actor may have the what you call very good programming skills, so that the threat actor can write the own or new program, or the threat actor can use the existing tool to gain the access of others, the inter property or others asset. So over the years, the attack tools have become more sophisticated, and because now instead of configuring the everything at your edge router, you may use the additional tools to protect your network, and the same tools will be used by your attackers. Instead of writing sophisticated programming and then try to execute that program remotely and gain access, okay, instead of that they use these automated tools to gain access of your the network. So these new tools requires the less technical knowledge to implement, just install, and just the attackers comes to know that how to operate that particular tool, right? So to explore the categories of common network penetration testing tools, we notice how some tools are used by white hat and black hat hackers. So keep in mind that the list is not the exhaustive, as new tools are continually being developed by the different companies. But the many of the tools are the Unix and Linux based tools. So therefore, a security professional should have a strong Unix and Linux based the background. So one of the tool which is used for this the cyber security purpose is most one is your password protection one. So that will see the password crackers is one tool, the category of tool for this password, because this is one of the most one for authentication purpose, right? So one of the most used the password cracker tool is your the John the Ripper or the OPH crack tools. So these are most useful tools which are Unix or Linux based tools. So you can easily install on your machine. Okay. So in your coming lab, if in penetration testing, generally we try to do explore all these tools for your network scanning, port scanning purpose, and for reconnaissance purpose, and for your social engineering purpose. But these passwords are the most vulnerable security threat. So password cracking tools are often referred to a password recovery tool and can be used to crack or recover the password. So this is accomplished either by removing the original password after bypassing the data encryption, or by outright discovery of the password. So the password crackers repeatedly make guesses in order to crack, but the password and access the system by doing some brute force mechanism. So the examples of this password cracking tools, one is your John the Ripper. This is most the famous tool for this password crackers, which is readily available on your Linux system. So on our virtual machine, cybersecurity virtual machine, you try to install this one. But most of the penetration testing they done by the specialized the version of your Linux that we call Kali Linux is used for the penetration testing purpose. Then another one is your wireless hacking tools, because password cracker is the primary one, because as we discussed at the what you call the SNMP security services, or your NetFlow security services, or your virtual private network security services, there is the users or your system log services. The users are given their usernames and password, right, for authentication, authorization, accountability. So the first and foremost, the the attackers or threat actors, they try to gain their passwords because username is public but password is private. So that's why they use these password crackers. Then the wireless hacking tools. So these wireless networks are more, susceptible to network security threats. So these wireless hacking tools are used to intentionally hack into a wireless network to detect security vulnerabilities. So the examples of these wireless hacking tools that includes the air crack, uh, or air crack, the hyphen ng, and your kismet. These are the wireless hacking tools. Means these are, we are just listing here the most the famous tools. So other tools are also there, but these are most famous tools and they are Linux based tools. The Linux or Unix based tools. These are. The next part of this is the third one is your network scanning and hacking tools. This is one of the most important what you call the cyber security tools we say. So this network scanning tools are used to probe network devices, servers and host for open TCP or your UDP ports. So example of your scanning tools for checking whether what are the ports of your end devices, like end devices or network devices, mainly the network devices, whether they are open or not. To check these ports, we use the because as we have seen, there are different port numbers are there, like port number 20 for one service, 21 for one service, 22 for one service, 23, and for HTTP some port numbers are there. So to check whether those port numbers are open or closed, the famous tools which are Linux based tools are your Nmap and Superscan. So I think you are already experienced with this Nmap, right? In our lab. So with this, you might have checked what are the UDP services and your TCP services, what are the ports are open. Okay. So that is most important one. So I think, one part of your penetration testing you've done with this. So in this week, if you find time, you can use other tools also for password cracker, like John the Ripper tool. You can simply install that and try to go through that help menu. There it will give you that step by step process of how to crack your own password, not others. Okay, yeah. So and the next one is packet the crafting tools. So these packet crafting tools are used to probe and test a firewall's robustness. So where do you find the firewalls? Firewalls we try to configure at edge router, right? So that is most important. So this packet crafting tools, they are used at the firewalls, okay, to check whether the legitimate packets are coming or any malicious packets are coming in that one. So these tools are using, especially crafting the forgot packets, the forged packets. An example of such tools that includes the hping is most famous one, and scopy tool. These are your Linux based one. Apart from that, you have the socat tool is also there. Then the Yersinia tool is also there. And you have the netcat tool, and the nping tool. So this is a host ping, network ping, your netcat, Yersinia, your socat tool, uh, and the nemesis tool is another one. The nemesis tools. So these are few tools, but these two tools are so famous: the hping and the scopy tools. And the next, the cybersecurity tool is your packet snippers. So these packet sniffer tools are used to capture and analyze packets with the traditional Ethernet LAN or your wireless LANs. So the some of the tools that include this packet sniffer, the famous one is the Wireshark and TCP dump. But apart from that, some other tools are also there, that EtherCap. The EtherCap tools are, DSNF, the Ether APE, you have the Paros, Fiddler, this is FDD, LER, the Fiddler, the Rat Proxy, and some SSL strip. So these are, few tools, but the most used tools are your Wireshark and TCP dump on your Kali Linux machine. And another one is your rootkit detectors. This rootkit detector is a directory and file integrity checker used by White Hat to detect installed rootkit. So the example tools that includes for this rootkit is AIDE and net filters. And the some other is the Open BSD packet filter is also there. Open BSD packet filter. So these are some of the important tools. And another one is your fuzzers to search vulnerabilities is another cybersecurity tool. So in this fuzzers to search the vulnerability, so here the fuzzers are the tools used by the threat actors mostly. These tools basically used by the threat actors to find out the vulnerabilities, or when these threat actors attempting to discover a computer system's security vulnerabilities. So the examples of this fuzzers that includes the skip fish is the most important one, which use the skip fish tool and the Wapiti tool. So then there are some the forensics tools are there. So in this forensic tools, this is also on cybersecurity tool part. These forensic tools, so it is basically used by your white hat hackers, not the threat actor or your black hat hackers. It is used by the white hat hackers. So these forensic tools to sniff out any trace of evidences existing in a particular computer system. The most useful tool on Kali Linux or your the Linux based operating system is your Sloth Kit or Helix tool for forensic. And for debuggers, the debugger tools are used by the black hat hackers, or we call the threat actors, to reverse engineering binary files when writing exploits, and used by white hat when analyzing the malware. So the tools which used for this one is your GDB and the WinDBG. Yeah. And then comes to your next one is the hacking operating system. This is also one of the most important activity in this cybersecurity. So these hacking operating systems are specially designed operating systems preloaded with the tools and techniques that is optimized for hacking. So the example of this specially designed hacking operating systems, including as we said the Kali Linux, SE Linux, we have the CyberOps, Security Onion, you have the Nopix, uh, we use this. The other operating systems are, sorry, the Nopix operating system, Parrot OS. You might have heard about this, right? The Parrot operating system and Bagbox Linux. Yes. So these are the most operating system which are basically used for your penetration testing or hacking purpose, defense purpose, and everything. Yeah. Your question is?
So, yeah, isn't there one that's used for
Which one? Tell us. I really haven't heard about that. Yeah. Okay. So these are the most one which is used. So in our upcoming course, like in penetration testing, we use this Kali Linux to explore all the vulnerabilities and how to defend those vulnerabilities also. So these operating systems, these are specially designed one, not like using your Windows or other things. Okay. And then the encryption tools for this security purpose, the encryption tools which are used is these tools use these algorithm schemes to encode the data to prevent unauthorized access to the data. So what these encryption tools do, they convert the plain text into your ciphertext. Convert the plain text into your ciphertext. So encryption tools, they basically the safeguard the content of your organization's data when it is stored or transmitted. So the important tools for encrypting the plain text into your ciphertext, that is Veracrypt or the CipherSend tools are there. So these are the inbuilt tools of your Kali Linux. These are so-called for any forensic tools or debuggers or your encryption tools or your the password cracking tools. They are all inbuilt tools in Kali Linux for vulnerability check, right? So then other tools for vulnerability exploitation tools are, these tools identify whether a remote host is vulnerable to a security attack or not. So the examples of the vulnerability tools and most used tools, most of the black hat hackers and your white hat hackers also sometimes use inside the network is Metasploit. This is also the inbuilt framework of your Kali Linux. So this is the most used one, like Metasploit, Wireshark, Nmap, the TCP dump. These tools are most used tools on Kali Linux for doing this penetration testing. Another one is the Core Impact tool. So this is also an inbuilt tool. Metasploit is the inbuilt tool of your Kali Linux, whereas your core the Impact is another tool which is in addition to this Metasploit that is also available in Kali Linux. And then the vulnerability scanners. So these points are very important. So all these categories of your tools are very important to protect your network. Are following the cybersecurity one is, the last one is vulnerability scanners. So these tools scan a network or system to identify open TCP or UDP ports. What are the ports are open or closed? So because anyone who try to enter into the network or enter into any individual system through ports only. If ports are open, your doors are open. So these vulnerability scanners are most important. Very frequently, these tools are trying to run on your machine, which is connected to your network, to check it out any vulnerabilities are there or not. So these vulnerability scanners can also be used to scan for the known vulnerabilities and the scan your virtual machines or BYOD, that is bring your own device, and the client databases. This bring your own device to check it out. Is there any vulnerabilities are there? So the examples of these the vulnerability scanners are most used one is your Nipper and Securia PSI. So some other the tools are also there. That is your Nessus. So most of the corporate industries they use this Nessus vulnerability scanner. The Nessus, and some use the Saint vulnerability scan, and other open VAS vulnerabilities are there. That is open VAS scan. So these tools are the inbuilt of your Kali Linux. So whereas your Nessus, your Saint and OpenAccess, you need to pay something to those vendors or the organization to get the credentials for doing the vulnerability scanning. So in this vulnerability scanning, they try to scan the network ports and the database. The database injection is happened or not, that will be checked by this vulnerability, the scans. So these are the tools which are used to protect the network. It is your password cracker, wireless hacker, networking scanning and hacking tools, your packet crafting tools, packet sniffer, and the most important one is your vulnerability scanners, vulnerability tools, and the hacking operating systems. Right? So now let us see what are the different categories of your attacks are there. The categories of your attack. So threat actors can use the the tools which we have just discussed now. That are combination of all those tools like your password cracking or vulnerability scanning, and then try to hack that. So the combination of previous tools to create various attacks. So the here in this table you can see it displays some type of attacks. So it is important to understand that the threat actors use a variety of security tools to carry out these attacks. So one is your eavesdropping attack. This is one category, eavesdropping. That means an eavesdropping attack is when a threat actor capture and listen to network traffic. This eavesdropping attack happens there. So this attack is also referred to as your sniffer or sniffing or snooping attack. It is or sniffering. That means the threat actor who is sitting. This is one LAN suppose, and your LAN 2. When traffic is going on, your threat actor is trying to snip what type of traffic is going on and receiving from other side, and if based on that they try to gain some information and later that information will be used. Another one is data modification attack. This is your passive attacks, whereas your eavesdropping is your passive attack, whereas your data modification attack is your active attack type. So in this data modification attack, the data modification attack occurs when a threat actor has captured the enterprise traffic and has altered the data in the packets without the knowledge of the sender or the receiver. So that type of attack we call the data modification. This is the active attack. Another one is your IP address spoofing attack, which we have discussed in our class also. When there is a address resolution table build-up is going on, then there is a possibility of this the IP address spoofing there. So an IP address spoofing attack is when a threat actor constructs an IP packet that appears to originate from a valid address inside the corporate intranet, but actually it comes from the outside the network. Another type of attack is your password-based attack. Password-based attack. So this attack occurs when a threat actor obtains the credential for a valid user account. So threat actors then use that account to obtain list of other users and network information. So they could also change server and network configurations and modify, reroute, or delete the data from the network devices or network servers. And the serious attack is your denial of service attack, DOS. So this attack prevents the normal use of a computer or network by valid users. So after gaining access to a network, a DOS attack can crash application or network services. So a DOS attack can also flood a computer or the entire network with the traffic until a shutdown occurs because of the overload. So a DOS attack can also block traffic, which results in a loss of access to network resources by authorized users. So this is the most the dangerous attack generally in the network. And another most important category of your attack is your man in the middle attack. So this man in the middle attack may be the passive attacker or your active attacker. So this man in the middle attack, we also write it as your capital M, small I, and capital T, capital M, man in the middle attack. So when threat actor have positioned themselves between a source and the destination, then this attack occurs. So they can now actively monitor, capture, and control the communication transparency. And another one is compromised key attack. Compromised key attack. So this attack occurs when a threat actor obtains a secret key. So this is referred to as the compromised key. A compromised key can be used to gain access to a secure communication without the sender or your receiver being aware of that attack. And the another type of your attack or category of attack is your sniffer attack. This sniffer attack, as we discussed, is an application. This attack is an application or a device that can read, monitor, and capture network data exchanges and read network packets. So if the packets are not encrypted, a sniffer provides a full view of the data inside the packets. So even encapsulated or your tunneled packets can be broken up and broken open and read unless they are encrypted and the threat actor does not have access to the key. So these are few the categories of your attack, but most important one is the active attackers. They place this denial of service, man in the middle attack, password based attack, and these IP spoofing and your data modification attacks. So whatever the previous tools that we use for password cracking or Wi-Fi password cracking tools, vulnerability searching tools, or your network port scanning tools, and the vulnerability scanning tools that Nessus or the Metasploit tools, such all those tools are used to find out the weakness of the any individual system or the network system, and then use those tools. Based on those tools information, they try to attack in these categories, right? So these are some basic tools and the attacks that these the attackers or hackers, they basically used for their to gain the access of your the assets or the networks. So now we will try to discuss the some of the other important network attacks, and how those attacks are happens, that we'll try to explore. Let me just check it out. Okay. Yeah. So we'll try to see the other common threat attacks which are due. Let me just open on this system for recording. Yeah. So these are few the common threads, which are the common threads are threats and the attacks which are using by the different threat actors. So in this we try to learn the common network attacks and the network attacks that includes the denial of service, which we have just seen. So some most important attacks are the malware attacks and the common network attacks, because if network is compromised, all the devices on that network will the give chance to gain access of others, right? So in this the common network attacks, will try to discuss the reconnaissance, access, and the social engineering network attacks. And then the network, in the network attacks, the most important one active attack is your denial of service attack. So how it happens, and what are the buffer overflow attacks and eviction attacks, that we'll try to discuss. Do we have time? No, it's gone, right? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we'll try to discuss this in the next class then. So this is the most important one. Probably you try to practice by using those tools at least once on your CyberOps machine. Yeah, that is also in a Kali Linux based one only. If you go and check in the application side in that CyberOps machine, you can find all the tools which we have addressed today. Cybersecurity tools. Some of the tools you already experiencing, right? Like Nmap and your the Metasploit. I think you haven't worked on Metasploit. Okay, Nmap you might have done. TCP dump is done, right? Okay. So some of the tools that you try to practice these tools, then you will get some confidence. And after that, you try to check it out. Any cybersecurity events are happening in and around Texas. So if anything you identify, you can register with those events. And inform to me. If I have the time, I will join to your team. Yeah, thank you.